Hey guys, welcome to Storytime with Jester. As you can see, I am in a different outfit than I normally am. This is my December Georgia Claws outfit. Tonight we'll be reading the continuation of the saga of Andor and his companions in my fantasy fiction novel, Book of Prophecies. We will be picking up at part 3, Realm of Darkness. The fierce storm assaulted the castle as if it was intent on bringing down the fortification stone by stone. Lightning struck the walls and battlements as if the gods themselves were hurling them down. The dragon standards that flew atop the highest towers came to life, howling as the wind whipped through their wolf heads. Down below a battle raged, the sounds of which were all but lost in the surrounding gale. The castle defenders did their best to stave off the hordes of undead that swarmed over them, but they were cut down like wheat at harvest time. In the midst of this nightmarish army were half a dozen figures clad in deep purple robes, which seemed to be commanding the legions of undead and the very storm itself. At the head of the army was a figure whose head was bathed in flames that danced all about. Up in the highest tower of the castle, the cry of a baby was being hushed by its mother. She held the child in her arms as she walked back and forth across the stone floor, humming an elvish tune. The fire in the earth seemed to roar in opposition of the noise outside, but despite its intense blaze, gave off little heat as the lofty chamber grew colder with each passing minute. Outside, a large colony of bats swooped and darted through the throng of combatants, making its way toward the castle where it began an ascent to the highest tower, climbing with the swiftness of a dragon about to catch its prey. The colony burst through the window of the tower, its many wings flapping, the resulting rush of wind as it flew about the chamber causing the woman's raven hair to tussle about her head and extinguish all the sources of light save that of the hearth. The colony swirled about the hearth like a mini tornado, causing the flames to die down in concert with the morphing of the colony into that of a humanoid form. The woman's breath crystallized with each exhale, the temperature in the room dropping drastically as the form materialized. The creature that formed was immense, standing nearly 15 feet in height. His frame was draped in ancient but intact robes of deep green, indigo, and crimson. It wore a long cloak of black, whose collar fluted into long points over the robes. The creature's flesh had a gray pallor as if it were void of life. Its long, sinewy arms ended in taloned claws. Its elongated head was ghastly. It had long pointed ears, a bald head capped off with horns, a mouth full of razor-sharp teeth emphasized by elongated canines, and one central eye, akin to that of a cyclops, that burned as if on fire. The creature moved across the floor toward mother and child as if it floated. The mother screamed in horror as it snatched the child from her grasp. As it did so, its eye caught a glimpse of a dagger hanging on the wall near a purple tapestry depicting the head of a unicorn. The dagger itself was fashioned from the horn of such a magical beast. Clutching the baby in one taloned claw, the creature took the dagger from the wall and plunged it into the infant's little chest. The fiery eye of the creature burned with a greater intensity as the baby's life force spilled onto the floor. The creature then discarded the dagger and the lifeless form of the child at the feet of the mother who had collapsed to the floor on hands and knees when the dagger had pierced her baby's flesh. Her sobbing quickly turned to screams of rage as her grief overwhelmed her. As the creature moved towards her, its arms stretched out as if it meant to embrace her in a death grasp, she took up the dagger, now drenched in her baby's blood, and thrust it upward into the creature as it hovered over her. The creature shuddered and convulsed as the dagger penetrated the spot where its heart should be, if it had one. Still clutching the dagger, the mother leapt upon the creature as it fell to the stone floor and, like someone possessed, cut open the chest of the creature and pulled out a lump of inky blackness that pulsated in her hand. Holding it outstretched above her head, she let out a guttural, maniacal scream of intense grief, pain, and jubilation. Time warp. And behold, there was a woman clothed in white. Virtuous was she, bearing a child. And behold, out of the ground came a dragon, its countenance ever changing as its color. Terrible was he. And all the heavens trembled beneath its feet. It waged war with all that was on the earth, trampling underfoot everything in its path. Great power was given to the woman, and she smote the dragon, sending it from whence it came. And all the gods praised the woman, saying, Blessed is she who hath delivered us from our enemy. The group of four carefully made their way along the narrow track, hugging the cliff wall on their right to avoid the 100-foot drop to a ravine on their left. Although a low wall created a natural buffer from those that may plummet to their deaths, they were not taking any chances this night. A strong wind buffeted them as the track opened onto a stone bridge whose walls rose to about waist high on the two humans of the quartet, giving complete relief to their much shorter companions. The temple loomed dark and menacing as they climbed the track that sloped upward and into the mountainside, the walls on either side of the entrance appearing as giant open arms welcoming or swallowing them to what awaited inside. Partially blocking the entrance was a low stone wall. It gave the impression that someone started to seal off the entrance, but halted their effort well short of their goal, as the entrance was some 20 feet in height and breadth, the stone wall only being able to conceal two gnomes if they stood side by side. In fact, the gnome of the quartet ran up to the wall as if hiding from something. "What is it, Fizz?" the priest of the group asked. The gnome just ignored the question as he began writing in the book he kept out at all times, peering over his spectacles as he did so. "Ah," the priest exclaimed, frustrated, "you and that godforsaken book." "A little unnerving, it is," the dwarf of the group said. "Him and that book. Never know if he's aware of what's going on or not." "I'd say not," the knight of the four chimed in. He was wearing all black plate mail armor with large purple robes trimmed in gold and blue. His shield was black, trimmed in gold, and had a pair of dragons, one gold, one blue, facing each other, their tails intertwined. On his waist was a dagger fashioned from a unicorn's horn. Looking up from his book, the little gnome, flamboyantly dressed in colors of aqua, yellow, and forest green, all cloaked in bright red, replied, "At least I have the wherewithal to conceal myself. You stand out like a blinking beacon." That last comment was directed towards the priest, who was wearing highly polished plate armor trimmed in a bright gold. His tabard was of the same gold, and his shield bore a bright silver sun with golden rays shooting forth in all directions. He looked odd for a priest in that he had a sword strapped to his waist. "You're one to talk, friend," said the stout dwarf, whose attire was as droll as his demeanor. Just then a horn sounded from deep within the mountain, its haunting sound echoing out through the entrance to the temple. The quartet drew their weapons and cautiously but quickly made their way inside. Chapter 50. The company of seven approached the temple that sat perched on the side of the mountain with a bit of caution. Their quest? Root out the irritating little buggers that plagued the mountain gnomes. A simple enough task. There was Kaorn Windtalker, a half-elven ranger who was as arrogant as he was prideful. Accompanying him was his personal bard, one Bibbit, whom he paid for nothing other than to sing his praises. Savelis Silverfrond was an elven druid whose master had sent him on a quest to this very temple, but for different reasons than why they were here now. Welby Greenbottle and Fizzwellian Cogsprocket were two known sorcerers, brothers, who were about as different as brothers could be. Failwind Frontrunner and Geordie Goodall were the only humans of the group. Geordie was a follower of the Lord of Light, and Failwind was a rogue who had found his fortune when joining this group. Indeed, they had been quite successful up to this point. He enjoyed the chaotic nature of the group, although Geordie could really be a drag sometimes with all of his do-gooding. Yes, the group had been quite successful, and it was this that caused them to be complacent on this quest of theirs. They arranged themselves in formation as usual, Caorn out front searching for traps, while Geordie followed, with Savelis, Welby, Fizz, Bibbet, and Failwin in order. On this day, Caorn would miss all the signs of the net trap that awaited them. Their enemy was craftier than expected, and when the party was in position, the net was released from above. Andor's Journal. Sunday, 15/12/31. Hawkeye drops out of the Protectors. He goes back to Sternreich. He will be missed very much. Sunday, 16/12/31. I will now attend to my research and studies. I must find all I can about Ikra. Chapter 51. What does it all mean? Andor thought to himself. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in the beautiful land. What is the beautiful land? Vanask? No. Beautiful, yes, but ruled not by any king. Well, not until it joined with Folkreach recently. Frederick is king, Prince Thomas his successor, the prince's son to follow, St. Columba willing, 3 kings. The 4th shall be far richer than they all. A 4th king? Who? Will Prince Thomas have a 2nd son? Or is this much later and the 4th king to be his grandson? That's assuming Folkreach Vanask is correct. A mighty king shall stand up with a crown of gold. Kings usually have golden crowns, so why this in the prophecy? Folkreach's symbol is a golden crown. Perhaps that. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, and shall be divided toward the 4 winds. For a portion of his kingdom shall be plucked up, even others on his borders. This sounds like the war with Ikra, possibly. And he shall be strong, and one of his princes, and shall seek to unite with that holy land. But the prince of the covenant shall be given up to she that begat him. Now this is where it all starts to fall apart. Prince Thomas is the prince of the covenant. It was his covenant marriage to Lady Jolise that united the 2 kingdoms. But if that is right, then who is she that begat him? Obviously it's his mother who died in childbirth. So this would mean that Prince Thomas dies and goes to be with his mother. This would cause his son to become king, the 3rd king. But if King Friedrich is the he in this prophecy, why does it say one of his princes shall be strong? King Friedrich has but 1 son, Prince Thomas. Out of a branch of her roots shall one stand up. This immediately follows the line about she that begat him. And his estate shall be vile and wicked, and he shall work deceitfully and make leagues with those round about. He shall come with an army, and shall enter into the lands of the moon, and shall deal against them, and shall prevail, and shall also carry away captives in his own lands. Many shall stand up against him, but none shall succeed. This has to be referring to Ikra. He made alliances in the lands all around Folkreach. The moon is another of its symbols. Captured many from Globenshield, and placed them in his horrific dungeons, and to this date no one has completely defeated him. But if the she is Prince Thomas's mother, then how could Ikra be from a branch of her roots? The king of the moon shall be stirred up, and shall assemble a multitude of great forces, and one shall certainly come, that prince of the covenant, and shall come to the kingdom of the stars to fulfill the agreement, yea, the holy covenant. And they shall join themselves together, 2 great sources of light, to do battle against the old one. Again, the prince of the covenant, Prince Thomas, the moon, Folkreach, the stars, Vanask. There can be no other explanation. So who is she? It can't be Prince Thomas's mother, or rather King Friedrich's deceased wife. She could not have borne Ikra. Then who? What is the meaning of it? Chapter 52. What was that? The bleeding Caorn said with confusion and exhaustion in his voice. Geordie was administering healing to Caorn and the others, which now were 2 less than when they first entered. Failwin and Bibbet lay dead upstairs along with over 100 Nobnobs and other creatures that had made the temple their residence. "This place is a hornet's nest," he exclaimed. "That about does it," Geordie said to no one in particular after seeing to the last of them. "We'll have to rest here for a while," he said, looking in the direction of Welby, who, with the power of the Lord of Light, had been brought back to life. "Fizz," he continued, "you stay with your brother while we search around down here. The gnomes mentioned that a giant ruled here. Who knows how many more surprises await us?" Fizz sat down next to Welby and began writing in his book, saying nothing. Savelis, who had shape-shifted into a black bear, curled up next to the little gnomes, intent on protecting them while Kaorn and Geordie investigated this level. Andor's Journal. Starday 1, 1232. Today I was officially named Bishop of Languedoc. All of the protectors, Prince Thomas, and many of my friends from Henwick were in attendance. Free Day 2, 1232. I received word today that a barbarian horde, led by Thorfinn, sacked an orc city on the edge of the Vressels. His victory was complete, losing only 100 of his 1,500 men. Starday 4, 1232. King Friedrich pays half of the barbarian horde to stay on as a roving guard. Thorfinn stays on as commander of these troops. Moonday 8, 1232. Rochefort falls. All territories have now been reclaimed. Free Day 10, 1232. In a ceremony held at Rochefort, King Friedrich gives Miranda the title of Countess and makes her the ruler of the recaptured territories east of Vressels, including Rochefort. Miranda appoints Marshak and Garth as her aides. Thorfinn's barbarians are now known as the Dragon Horde. Moonday 13, 1232. Miranda drops out of the protectors. I've noticed a change in her. Her actions of late are strange. Chapter 53. "Leave me alone," Miranda screamed. "Why do you torment me so?" She was near hysterics as she passed a mirror on the wall. Seeing her image displayed thus, she picked up the nearest object and hurled it at her reflection. "Look what you've done to me!" "Ah, you are mistaken, little one," a voice said. "Get out of my head," she commanded. No, pleaded, squeezing her head between both hands as if she meant to crush her own skull. "You know I can't." "Won't." Semantics. "Why won't you just go away?" she said now, almost sobbing. "If only it were that easy, little one." "Stop calling me that," she said in an angry, pouty voice. "That's right, you take offense to that. My apologies, little one. Need I remind you of the contrast between you and me?" "You just did." "Indeed. And do all the time." "It seems another reminder is in order." "I know, if it weren't for you, if it weren't for me, you and your friends would all be dead by now." "So you say." "Several times over." "And say." "And this new fortune you find yourself in, all because of me." "Why do you mar my figure?" "Mar?" The voice sounded as though she just insulted it. "On the contrary, remaking." "Into what? I look hideous." "Into a form more acceptable." "To who?" "To what?" the voice corrected. When she didn't respond, except with a look of confusion, the voice continued. "Look, little one, I find that among your kind you have been quite acceptable. You don't seem to be as greedy as those before you. I even sensed a feeling of unworthiness when you were granted this boon." "Well, that shouldn't come as a surprise, seeing as how I had nothing to do with it, as you say." "Ah, sarcasm. You do run the gamut of emotions. Another thing I will miss about you. It has been so long since I have been able to experience anything other than sleep and contemplation." "Miss? Are you finally leaving?" "No, little one. You will be, once your transformation is complete. When picking your aides, you should have searched for a successor. I have waited so very long to shed this container that binds my formless being, and to be able to take to the sky once more, to feel the air currents under my wings, to smell, taste, hear, see, and feel again. You, little one, will make that all possible again." "No, I won't!" she exclaimed. "I will get rid of you." "You can't and won't. You're becoming more as I each passing day. You know I speak truth. Only your death will stop the process." Then, reading her thoughts, "Ah, your priest friend, it's not that simple. No, only your permanent death will stop the transformation, and that you won't need your priest for, as I will see to your survival until it is time." "There's got to be another way." "I would know if there was." "Well, then you're wrong. I will find a way out of this. I've got to." And that, my friends, is where we will end tonight's reading. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did in reading it to you. As always, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell, and leave comments in the comment section because I do like those. And make sure you share with all of your friends because the more people you share with, more people can come here. Also, make sure to pick up my book, the Book of Prophecies, which I'm reading to you guys now. The links to my hardback, paperback, and ebook are in the About section in this channel. Is always also in the About section in my Facebook page, James Richmond Author. And until next time, as always, see you soon.